Welcome to the deep dive. You gave us, well, quite a stack of sources this time,
Mm.
and they really deliver a much-needed splash of cold water on the generative AI hype cycle.
Yeah, it's a reality check.
Definitely. We're not talking future potential today. We're looking at current real-world deployment. And honestly, the gap between the promise and the reality of this often costly mess, it's just huge.
That's really the core mission for this dive, isn't it? We
Yeah.
need to go beyond the shiny press releases and distill how these consumer-grade AI models, the LLMs, are actually performing when businesses try to use them to, replace or help out human workers.
And look at the economic fallout, too,
Yeah.
because that underperformance, it's costing companies.
Absolutely, it has serious implications.
Okay, so where do we start? I think we have to begin with some of the real-world chaos because, frankly, some of the failures are almost comical but telling.
Right, like Taco Bell?
Yeah, Taco Bell introduced voice AI at, over 500 locations, trying to make things faster, more efficient.
And their CTO, Train Matthews, basically told the Wall Street Journal something like, "Sometimes it lets me down, but sometimes it really surprises me."
Which sounds unpredictable. Not exactly what you want for smooth operations.
Well, exactly. Unpredictability is kind of the enemy of enterprise efficiency, isn't it? And the ultimate example, maybe, is McDonald's.
Oh, yeah. They completely scrapped their AI drive-thru program. Just pulled the plug.
Because it was just too unreliable. The error rate was apparently quite high.
And some of those errors are legendary now. You hear stories about AI mistakenly adding bacon to someone's ice cream, or even worse, adding hundreds of dollars worth of chicken nuggets to an order, just out of nowhere.
Yeah, and when your big cost-cutting technology ends up causing massive food waste and, really unhappy customers, you've got a serious problem on your hands.
It's not just the drive-thru, though, is it? These public screw-ups seem to mirror bigger issues happening behind the scenes in the back office.
That's right. And that's where the sources, especially this critical MIT report, really shed some light. They surveyed, I think, 150 business leaders and around 350 employees about their AI pilot programs.
Okay, and what was the headline finding?
It's pretty staggering. You ready for this? 95%. 95 of the integrated AI pilots they looked at are basically stuck. They have no measurable profit and loss impact.
95%. So almost everyone trying this isn't actually moving the needle on the bottom line.
Exactly. Only a tiny slice, just 5%, are really extracting significant value, like millions of dollars.
Wow. Okay, a 95% failure rate to impact P&L. That screams alarm bells, especially for companies pouring money into this.
It really should.
But if mistakes are things like, confusing bacon and ice cream, is this just bad training? Or is there something more fundamental going wrong with the tech itself?
That's the fascinating part. The sources suggest it's not just bad data or, clumsy implementation. It seems inherent to the current technology. Well, most of the generative AI we're talking about, these large language models or LLMs, they're built on a core idea from a 2017 Google paper. It introduced something called the transformer neural network.
Okay, the transformer. Walk us through that, because you're saying that's where the problem originates.
Pretty much. The big innovation was letting the AI look at a whole sentence or a whole prompt and figure out how relevant each word is to every other word in that sequence.
Right, context.
Exactly, context. And that lets it predict the next word that's statistically most likely to appear. That's how it gets that incredible fluency. It sounds human.
It sounds convincing, very confident even.
Super confident.
Yeah.
But here's the catch. Confidence isn't the same as accuracy.
Ah.
Because it works purely on statistics, on probability. It doesn't actually know anything. It doesn't have a verified database of facts it checks against.
So what happens when it needs a fact it hasn't really processed correctly?
Well, it can't just say, "I don't know." That's not how it's built. Instead, it predicts the most fluent-sounding next word or phrase, even if that means just making something up.
Making stuff up. That's the hallucination problem we hear about.
That's exactly it. Hallucinations. It generates plausible-sounding fiction, often with complete assurance.
Okay, and obviously that's a massive problem for serious corporate work. If you're using an LLM to summarize, say, complex patient documents or take meeting notes or handle scheduling, tasks you hired it to do instead of a person.
Right.
How much of what it produces is just statistical fiction?
Well, the sources estimate that in these real-world business uses, the AI is essentially making up somewhere between 5% and maybe even 20% of the content.
5 to 20%. Okay, now imagine you've cut staff, you've bet the farm on this AI handling things,
Yeah.
but you can't trust which 5 or 20% is actually accurate.
Precisely. So what happens? Your remaining employees, the ones who are left, they now have to go back and manually check everything the AI produces.
Ugh, that's not saving time or money. That's adding work. It's like a hallucination tax.
That's a great way to put it. A hallucination tax. It's extra shadow work that creates huge operational waste, completely undermining the point of using the AI in the first place.
So why are executives still pushing this so hard if this flaw is known? Are they just mismanaging it, or is the tech itself just not ready?
It seems like, a bit of both. Maybe driven by this real pressure, this rush to cut costs quickly. And we're seeing a lot of corporate regret surface in these sources.
Like that scheduling software example.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
A company trying to use AI scheduling specifically to maintain a hiring freeze. They thought, okay, this will free up our accounts team.
Makes sense on paper, but what happened?
Well, the accounts team ended up having to double-check everything the AI did. And worse, the production team, who never had to worry about schedules before, suddenly had to triple-check what the accounts team was doing because mistakes were still slipping through.
Oh.
Yeah. So, in the end, they scrapped the whole AI project, went back to just basic specialized scheduling software, all that investment down the drain for actually negative returns.
And the stakes are even higher in some fields, right? Like clinical settings?
Oh, absolutely. In healthcare, the data has to be perfect. Zero room for error. But the AI deployments were failing badly with really critical stuff. Patient names, birth dates, insurance info.
Basic demographic data.
Yes, and even task assignments. Sources mention cases where the AI literally confused the doctor with the patient in its notes or task lists.
Yikes. That's completely unacceptable.
Totally. So for tasks needing that level of accuracy with data entry or verification, this current generation of AI, it's just not trustworthy.
Customer service is another area that seems fraught. That Claire example is striking.
Claire, they did a big hiring freeze, cut their staff way down from like 3,800 to 2,000 people.
Claiming AI chatbots can do the work of 800 employees, right?
Yeah, it was the claim. But the reality, service quality plummeted, customer satisfaction tanked.
Because people still wanted to talk to people.
Pretty much. Especially for complex issues. Customers rebelled. And Claire eventually had to admit, yeah, human interaction is still essential.
They learned the hard way, like that quote from Fortune magazine you highlighted, saying cutting people for AI is short-sighted and just fundamentally bad business.
It seems to be, in many cases right now. It's a really painful learning curve.
And think about the sheer cost and, frankly, embarrassment, like that bank mentioned in the sources. Firing staff for a chatbot that was so bad, they ended up literally begging their former employees to come back. Imagine that conversation.
Oof. The cost of rehiring, retraining, trying to rebuild that trust, it's enormous. That's the real cost of jumping in too soon before the tech is ready for the task.
Okay, so widespread issues. But you mentioned that MIT report found 5% are succeeding. We need to balance this. It's not all failure.
No, absolutely not. That 5% is crucial. If 95% aren't getting measurable P&L impact, what are the successful ones doing differently?
And it seems is often not the huge companies trying a general do-everything AI. The MIT paper pointed to, like, younger startups.
Yeah, often startups, sometimes led by really young entrepreneurs, like late teens, early 20s, and they saw massive growth, like $0 to $20 million in revenue in just a year.
How? What's their secret?
Focus. Really sharp focus and specific execution. They didn't try to just slap AI everywhere, as you said. They picked one specific pain point in a business process.
Okay.
And they built or used an AI tool designed only for that. They constrain the environment heavily, which helps mitigate that hallucination risk. Specificity is key.
And how they implement matters too, right? Buying versus building.
Huge difference. The sources show that buying specialized AI tools from vendors or building smart partnerships with them, that approach succeeds about 67% of the time.
2/3, okay.
But if a company tries to build these specialized AI solutions completely internally, their success rate drops dramatically. Only about 1/3 as successful as partnering or buying.
So that's a really critical takeaway for you listening. These general consumer AI models, they're often not good enough for specialized business tasks right now. Success seems to demand real specificity, probably external expertise, and constraining the AI to do one thing well.
Precisely. You need thought, strategy, and often partners.
Okay, so we have operational failures, lots of regret, a fundamental technical flaw, and yet Massive global investment is still pouring in. Let's pivot to that. Connect the performance issues to the money. Is this whole financial structure built on AI sustainable?
Yeah, that's the trillion-dollar question, almost literally.
Yeah.
And this is where that comparison to the dot-com bubble in the mid-90s feels, well, uncomfortably relevant.
How so? Remind us.
Back then, you remember, companies got insane valuations just for having .com in their name, often with no real business plan, no actual path to profit.
Right, hype over substance.
Exactly. And eventually the market woke up, realized a lot of it was smoke and mirrors, and the whole thing crashed hard. Only a few strong ones survived.
And you're seeing similar signs now with AI.
The parallels are pretty striking. Look at the actual product performance. The big ChatGPT-5 release everyone was waiting for, described mostly as incremental, not revolutionary.
And didn't OpenAI get caught, kind of, fudging some numbers?
Yeah, there were reports they presented some performance graphs in a misleading way, making the improvements look bigger than they maybe were. That erodes trust.
And the cost to even run this stuff, it's astronomical, isn't it?
It's mind-boggling. This whole boom runs on incredibly expensive hardware, mostly those NVIDIA H100 GPUs. We're talking $30,000, maybe $40,000 each.
Wow, and the scale is immense. Meta, for instance, reportedly has something like 600,000 of these H100s.
600,000. Compare that to Google, which has maybe 26,000. That's, what, 23 times the compute power at Meta?
A huge difference.
Yeah.
But is Meta getting 23 times the result?
Well, that's the critical economic point, isn't it? Despite that overwhelming compute investment, Meta's main LLM, Llama, it's not producing fundamental scientific breakthroughs like Google's specialized AI AlphaFold has done in biology.
So just throwing more expensive hardware at the current LLM architecture might be hitting diminishing returns.
It really looks that way. It's not leading to proportional leaps in capability, just bigger bills.
And those bills are enormous. Electricity consumption alone. AI has apparently increased U.S. electricity use by 4% already.
Yeah, the power draw is immense. And then look at the future investment projections. Morgan Stanley thinks data center investment will hit $3 trillion over the next 3 years.
$3 trillion. Where's that money coming from?
A lot of it is fueled by debt and by market hopes. Hopes that AI will eventually deliver, say, a 40% cost reduction across businesses.
But based on that MIT study, that 40% reduction, it's a fantasy right now for 95% of companies trying it.
Exactly. There's this huge disconnect. Investment is based on a future promise, but the present-day reality is, well, it's often failure and added cost.
And even the leaders, like OpenAI, their books don't look great.
Not sustainable right now. The internal cost to just run their data centers, power, cooling, the chips, everything, it's estimated around $40 billion a year.
$40 billion. And their revenue.
Currently projected somewhere in the $15 to $20 billion range. You can't run a business forever with that kind of massive annual deficit. Something has to give.
Which brings us to that forecast of a potential long winter for AI that some sources mention.
Right. If the core performance doesn't improve dramatically and soon, if that hallucination problem isn't really solved, you could see a few things happen.
Like what?
Well, executives getting really frustrated with the poor ROI, scrapping more of these costly projects, maybe the big names, the gurus like Sam Altman eventually having to admit that, this current LLM path, it might be a dead end for reaching true artificial general intelligence.
You're on the money.
And the money dries up.
Right.
Venture capital, public markets.
Yeah.
They'll stop funding these incredibly expensive, inefficient models if the breakthroughs don't materialize.
Okay, let's try to pull this all together. It's synthesize what we've covered. Generative AI, technically, it could revolutionize productivity one day. That potential is there.
Sure, the potential.
But right now, the reality for most businesses trying to implement it seems to be, frankly, a lot of wasted effort. It's trapped by these technical limits like hallucinations and often rolled out too fast by companies just desperate to cut costs.
Yeah, that sums it up well. And the fix isn't just better training data or slightly faster chips. The sources suggest we need another fundamental breakthrough.
A groundbreaking paper, as they put it.
Something like that. A whole new underlying neural network design, maybe, that can actually solve the hallucination problem. One that allows the AI to genuinely know when it doesn't know something.
And that kind of breakthrough, if it happens, could trigger the next, maybe truly revolutionary AI boom.
That would be the hope. But we're not there yet.
Okay, so we've looked at the intense excitement, the frankly staggering debt-fueled spending, the somewhat disappointing updates recently, and that sobering 95% failure rate in business value creation.
It's quite a picture.
It is. So to end this deep dive, we want to leave you, the listener, with a concept. The Gartner hype cycle. You might know it. It tracks how new tech enters the world.
Right, there's the initial technology trigger, then the huge climb up to the peak of inflated expectations.
Then the inevitable crash down into the trough of disillusionment.
Before, hopefully, climbing slowly up the slope of enlightenment to the final plateau of productivity.
So the question for you is this. Given everything we've talked about, the hype, the $3 trillion investment projection, the $40 cage ships, the $40 billion operating losses, the McDonald's fiascos, the 95% business failure rate, where do you think we are right now on that cycle?
Are we still riding high near that peak of inflated expectations, fueled by hope and investment?
Well,
Or are we already starting to slide down into that trough of disillusionment as the practical realities bite?
something to definitely think about as you watch this fascinating and clearly very volatile technology continue to evolve.